see if we can get the last couple pages of these rules done, but you'll notice my video is so far in 3 parts, now in 4. Apparently YouTube is no longer, unless it's just changed, allowing processing 1 hour or anything longer than an hour. Now I remember this happening before, where I made a video that was too long, but it may not have been an hour, it may have been 2 hours, and they may have just cut it down again. I don't know what that's going to mean for my life. I'm pretty fucking discouraged with making videos in general at this point, and this may be the straw. You know, not being able to comment over there, not being, but I don't know, you know, if I can live without it, so in that case, I may start doing something very different, you know, where, or I may just start, you know, doing the processing on my own side again. That had some problems, but mainly because my video processor took so much effort. I understand why they would want to not process long videos. However, I've gotten used to it, you know, so anyway, fortifications. We have multiple different types of fortifications on the board. We have, well, Paris is an improved fortress, but we also have regular fortresses and forts. These are all going to be specified somewhere in the charts and tables, and of course that's a pain in the ass to find, and I'm really not in the mood to deal with it. I'm just rather discouraged and pissed off about everything at this point, having found out that, you know, the whole video thing has just really got me. So I don't see it, but they have different values which are recorded somewhere, which I'll have to be able to find, you know, to play the game, but damned if I can find them. You know, I mean, this is the problem with so much crap, and it doesn't help when you decide to use this weird blurry font that my eyes can't see. And I don't think it's just mine, it's just blurry. What kind of fucking, I mean, their graphic design must be fucking high, you know? Just so many things wrong with it, and it's consistent. Like, really wrong. Like, unreadable fonts on the counters because they're too small. Unreadable fonts like this, and what is it? God Kings had ones that you just could not discern what the hell they were trying to even say. It's like they just don't pass things by normal people. There's some, you know, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if we used like flaming font on here? I can't really read it, but you know, if I drink a couple beers, maybe I can. They obviously don't send it out to be reviewed, you know, for efficacy. All right, I think we got fortifications listed here. Yeah. So, one thing, oh wait, they've got, I was going to say one thing that I liked at least about Elusive Victory was I could find numbers on here. So I'm kind of looking for 16. The problem is, of course, it's written in this font, but that's unreadable. But I might be able to discern, so that doesn't look like a 16, but it might be. I mean, this is just fucking ridiculous. Player aids should be designed to aid the player, not to frustrate. This looks almost like a 16. Alright, well, I don't see it, so I guess maybe it's somewhere else. Oh, look, maybe it's on here. Here we go. All the siege stuff is on this chart. I thought this was just victory points and things. All right. Or is it? Yes. So we've got the different. All right, we're gonna stop pretty fucking soon. We got the different types of fortifications here. Oh, you know, I'm up to an hour. Yep. Okay. Well, we didn't get through the rules here, but I gotta cut this because YouTube won't take it. Okay. So, and I don't know where things are gonna land because the last video I think ran over an hour. So I may be jamming the end of the last video onto this one. This is really a serious pain in the ass, and I'm getting fucking sick of it. Anyway, so we've got our numbers here, which gives a total number of SPs you can hold in any of the fortresses. You've got something called a siege number, which is how difficult it's going to be to siege. We'll see how that works. It has an inherent number of artillery factors to it, and then it has combat results, and you'll see field fortification doesn't actually get sieged. It's really nothing like the other fortifications. All it is a column shift for the defender. I don't know why it's on that chart particularly, because it's really a different type of thing. But everything else that's a fortification is, like if they'd named this field works instead, they could have just left it off the fortification definition. And then they wouldn't have to use some really strange notation of this, well, maybe not all that strange, but where they put RESS in parentheses for fortresses so that they can say forts and fortresses in the same place, when really they are pretty much very similar. Okay. So you're allowed to enter an enemy's fortress. I think there may be a restriction. You may have to be able to besiege it. I don't see anything there. Okay. Yep, all you need is one infantry SP to siege it, so that actually is covered by all the rules. I wanted to make sure because most games require that you know, have more than a couple of guys to besiege a fortress, that you have some kind of, no, not here. If they can come out and relieve it, that's great. Okay. You break the siege by getting rid of the strength points that are present, or at least the infantry that are present. Okay, siege resolution is going to happen at the end of each game turn. And it's the only time that this is taken care of. This is similar. It's funny because I've looked at some games recently that have more detailed siege rules where, you know, usually card driven. I'm thinking card driven, maybe not all, but no, they're not all, because one of the recent ones that I looked at, one by the sword, which is kicking around somewhere. There it is down there. But I'm also thinking of it's got to be there somewhere. Kingdom of Heaven, which have these kind of extended siege handlings, and I was half expecting such in this game. No, this isn't too impressive. What you do is you're going to be worrying about the siege progress. So you roll a die and you get some modifiers on it. The modifiers are listed here. And the siege progress increases or whatever. Now here we have a siege comparison table, which seems to indicate something else. So I think you can't even roll. I think you can establish a siege to allow you to park in this space, but I don't think you can roll unless you have the strength points required. I'm not seeing that here. Maybe it's buried in some of this other stuff where you wouldn't expect it. I'm not seeing it there either. Well, we shall see. I don't know what this shit is for. Okay. Is that... Yeah, no, it's not the siege number. Yeah, I don't know what that shit is. When the siege progress level markers exceed the siege number on the fortress surrenders. Okay. So what the fuck is all this other shit here? The siege capacity comparison table. +1 for each. Oh, okay. If the number of infantry in the besieging force is greater than 1/2 of this table, result, and then -1 if the besieging, this is all modifiers. If the besieging infantry is less than this number, you get a penalty. I guess. I don't know. This doesn't... some of these, this one looks like it's just jammed in there. If the number of besieging infantry is less than either twice the number of infantry being besieged or twice the fortress siege number. So this doesn't seem to have any reliance or any relationship to anything. Right? Twice the number of infantry SP being besieged. Well, you don't know how many infantry are being besieged. Or twice the fortress siege number. We do have the siege number, and that relates. Okay, so that's... I wish these charts weren't in here, because the explanation is fine. I can do math in my head, like simple math, right? And I guess this other one is going to be similar. Whatever. Let's use up... make the player aids more confusing. I thought the rules were pretty simple on it. Start looking at the fucking player aids and it gets crappy. Alright. What else do we have? Let's just hurry through this shit because I only have an hour on any given video, right? Alright, there's an optional rule where you keep track of fortresses being damaged. And basically they keep some siege progress markers. Now it's a weird... It looks like a funky rule in terms of like, if I take the fortress from you, I restore it at half the, with half damage against it. Now you could lay siege to me, and then if I drive you off, I end up repairing more of the fortress than I was able to before, so it actually heals more. It just, there's some inconsistencies to that, but you know, the idea is, once you take a fortress, it's never going to be as good as it once was. I wish there was just a simple, okay, you know, the fortress is at half value once it's surrendered or whatever. But it's not that simple. Now, given that when a fortress surrenders, but it also happens, so this damage remains in as well. So if I besiege you and get you to a good number, you repair half of it if you drive me off as well. So it's not that simple, and I don't know. I just think there would have been an easier solution, like the one I suggested. Okay, anything interesting here? Frontier. They have 2 movement points, cannot leave France, and they kind of suck. But the bonus with them is that they affect enemy movement. Enemies have to pay an additional movement point when entering one of their hexes. You can stack only 3 of them in a hex. Any excess will be eliminated. They automatically are allowed to react. Right? They may always attempt to react. Is there anything they can't? When attempting to react, it uses the reaction modifier for the terrain in its hex as a positive value. They have an easier time slipping away. I think they only have a zone of influence in their own hex. Again, that's not... That's not specified anywhere here, but I think that's what I remember. It may be wrong. They get a penalty in combat, and they can't really control any hexes, but they can deny them control to the enemy for reinforcements, rail movement, sea transport, la la la. Landwehr and mobile infantry. They're cheaper to build as emergency reinforcements. They suck in combat. And Landwehr enter differently. Well, geez. I don't remember the specifics of that, so we'll have to look that up. I think we skipped over that rule. And that's why I like referencing back like this. Rule books need to do it. And, Landwehr. Okay, so like the Bavarians have their own special where they can enter into Bavarian Corps German off map. Landwehr is a maximum of 4 per on hex map. Whatever the fuck. Per turn. If you enter more, the excess must go with an army or corps, or in the off-map box. Okay. Alright. Political roles. The French Empire and Republic. Okay. If Napoleon III dies, the empire falls. Otherwise, it may fall if an army containing Napoleon III loses a combat, and you have some die rolls with some modifiers there. If he's under siege, each turn that he's under siege, you make a roll. And the effects are Napoleon goes away. A bunch of the Empire-only leaders are removed from the map. Well, all of them, except for under siege, are removed from the map. And then, let's see, favor of the Emperor goes away. The Imperial Command Replacement System goes away. The French Republic is much more capable of just choosing who they want to replace. God, I'm going to have a hard time processing these videos. I'm just thinking, yeah, I know, tangent, totally extraneous, but I'm just thinking about the fact that, like, oh, if I'm a little over an hour, that means, like, the last video that I loaded up, I have to remember to keep and link to the... Oh, God, this is going to be fucking annoying. I think this may be the end of my videoing. I'm just too sick of it all. Alright, leader confirmed markers which come from the Imperial process go away. All units, all cav units, you roll a die for, and they may be reduced. Infantry also may be reduced if it's not besieged. The Guard Corps and Guard Cav are removed, but they'll be redistributed strength point wise. The French Heavy Corps will now be reduced in size. These are some of the corps go to 8 strength points. Well, now they'll be back down to 6, which is what the X is for, but it also serves, there's an optional rule which gets rid of it. French unit supply path is decreased. Wow, wonder what's up with that. And the French begins getting Republican reinforcements. 7.52. Is that more troops or just the leaders? I could see it being either. Ah, yes. Okay, so yeah, there's a... The reinforcements are listed on here. And so now we'll be adding these mobilization reinforcements in addition to whatever would come from the normal schedule. The only thing we don't get is Imperial leaders. Like Red Jet, no. And I guess, you know, this is sort of expected, but the Prussians get 30 victory points. Well, if you're going to lose the Empire anyway, there's no real reason to hold on with it for very long. Except maybe the Imperial leaders are better early on. Okay, so besieged units, when the siege is relieved, are affected by this, and there's little markers for that. And then we've got the rules on the kings, which I think we've already kind of dealt with. There's a big victory point total if you can kill Kaiser Wilhelm. There's no victory point advantage for killing Napoleon, because it ends the empire, and that's the big deal. Whew. All right. That is that. The playbook contains some additional stuff. First of all, it's got the scenarios and how to judge them, and it's a fairly hefty book in and of its own. But then, beyond that, and it has a what-if scenario allowing for a better French preparation and one that better integrates with the naval invasion. So then they have this optional rules section, and they decide to throw in some additional optional rules. The rest of the naval rules, which I'm not going to use because they do change things. Some rules on minor countries and how they'd be affecting things. So Austria, Denmark, Luxembourg, where there's some options to, you know, align them with one side or the other. Options on von Moltke to make him die early. Let's see, von Roon also, I believe, to die early. Improved Russian tactics so they don't have to deal with that thing. Something to do with a core. I guess gaining additional core. I wonder why I don't have those bagged. We'll see. Reduce the first army in size, or no, remove the first army and increase the size of the other armies. The Prussian Fourth Army. There will be additional forces for the French. Get rid of the fuse penalty. They knew about percussion fuses. They just hadn't implemented them yet. They knew their fuses were worse. Improvements in their command, basically. Improved rails. Activations. Looks like increased number of cav, or at least better cav. A rail line between Metz and Verdun, apparently a key piece of their defensive structure, is missing there. An additional smaller corps. An additional army. I guess more recruitment. An option of adding Garibaldi to lead some of the frontiers. You know, a lot of cute little things. I see them kind of like the gamers options. They come with a victory point advantage. They change the historical scenario, and there's no real random assignment for them. So, yeah, I'm kind of like, well, I don't want to play with those. Just like I don't want to play with the French, you know, better prepared option. If I played the game enough that, you know, although that would have to be more than I play almost anything. Like, I'm likely to make house rules for a game, but more likely than to play the actual, like, supposed ahistorical scenarios, you know, the proposed ahistorical scenarios. So like with Civil War, I know that there are some I don't know about that one. There are games that I've played a fair amount of, though, that I've never played with any of the options. And I mean, even with Le Grand Guerre, where it's not even an option, I all too often choose the historical choices for the starting player options, which, you know, every now and then I tinker with them a little bit, but I usually am pretty well balanced on those, even though they're part of the core rules of it. And likewise with this, you know, I would have to probably play this a couple dozen times before I'd even be considering taking the French stronger position scenario. It's just so hard for me to not use the historical situation. And there's basically no game at this point that I'm going to play so much that I'd get bored of it. This probably is going to get 3 or 4 plays in my lifetime at most, you know? Maybe I'm being overly optimistic about the length of my life. All right, let's send this up.